So, hey, it's Monday. Now what?
It's Monday, now what?
What are we doing on It's Monday? Now what?
Well, we are talking.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. We're getting practical and tactical.
Practical and tactical.
Doing our best to bring it into Monday. Like, hey, answer that question. It's Monday. Now what? What do I do with these things? And yeah, we have just started series into Romans, which I have said from stage, no one should ever preach through Romans until they're at least 50 years old.
You have said
or
that.
older.
Yeah.
I have begun at 38 to try to do that. I just turned 39, though, so I did it right at the end of 38.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, 11 years
Just
away
11
from
years
50.
off. Yeah, yeah.
And that's because, Romans is a heavy hitter. I think it was he's got a study Bible now. Tony Evans. Tony Evans said, like, Romans is the constitution of Christianity or something like that. Like,
okay.
He's like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think he was just pulling off of what others had said. And I don't know that he was necessarily making that. He was just saying, it's been perceived that way.
It is.
And I was like, well, I think I see where he's getting at. It's heavy in terms of theology. Probably, I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I would stake some money on it if I was a betting man that no other book in the Bible has more commentaries written on it than Romans.
I think you're probably right.
I would, maybe Revelation, maybe,
but that's
doubtful.
just because we love a good conspiracy.
Yeah, we like a good conspiracy. You're right there. Yeah. Just that would be the only reason. So there's a lot to it, and it can get in the weeds pretty quick. We'll try not to get too much into the weeds, but speak about things that are practical and tactical that matter.
And tactical.
That matter. Not that the other things don't matter and the complexities of it, but there's places where that matters and there's places where it doesn't, and things like that. So we'll try to keep it where help people make sense of things that are going on in Romans and what Paul's talking about. So
I think maybe a good way to think about it, we talked a little bit before, but it's been said that Jesus Christ is perfect theology. His life is perfect theology.
I'm with that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But we live in an imperfect world, and so Paul has to bring it down and get into the weeds, so to speak, the practicals.
Yeah.
And how do we live a Christ-like life, especially in the Roman Empire, where, goodness gracious, just read literally any history book about what was going on in Rome in the time of Paul, and it's harrowing. It's disgusting and scary.
Not just that, also the challenges that were at play in terms of what was going on in the Israelite world, Second Temple period, right? We're talking 500 BC to 70 AD, that time period. This is the world that Paul grew up in. It's the world that Jesus was alive in and grew up in, and so there's things there that are happening that are they're 2,000 years removed from us. So it's super challenging to like bridge that gap, as it's been said. And to understand how does this even apply to us at some times. And so, and I've been talking about in the messages to some degree, and I told you before, like, I don't know that I've done a great job of like doing this. It's kind of hard because it makes more sense once we get to some of those issues later in Romans. But it's very important to understand who Paul's talking to. And so one of the things I wanted to point out is, okay, and I think I did a good job of this Sunday, he's talking to believers.
That's right.
In Rome.
That's right.
He's not talking to all Romans. He's talking to believers in Rome. And I would argue, so you have to think about these things because it's challenging, right? So he's writing to them, but he's also writing about people too. So in chapter 1, he's writing, I would argue, chapter 1 through 9, along with others. And Dr. David Allen, great work on this, To the Jew First. He was, I think it's Dr. Lay that he was piggybacking off of. I may have that name wrong, but who wrote one about this as well. So what I would argue, and I think Dr. David Allen is right on this, he's writing chapters 1 through 9, he's writing to the Jews. Chapters 1 through 8, and then chapters 9 and on, he's writing to the Gentile believers. So all believers, but he kind of starts, hey, let me talk to the Jews, to the Jew first. First 9 chapters or 8 chapters, and then from there on, he's more talking to. So, but as he's doing that, as he's talking to the Jews in chapter 1, he's talking to the Jews about the Gentiles.
That's right.
Then when you get to chapter 2, he's talking to the Jews about themselves.
That's right.
Okay, so that's a good. I don't know that I made that very clear Sunday. That's what I was trying to do. So that's super important, and that will shift and change at times, like who he's talking to, as I said, 1 through 9, and then Gentiles afterwards. But also in that section, he talks about Gentiles at times, and he's talking about Jews at other times. And so you have to, otherwise you can get really messed up. And I think that's happened in a lot of commentaries.
Yes.
Not that I've like figured it out or anything, but I've read guys who I think have, who are much more brilliant than me. And so I'll try to bring some of that out.
Well, you see a very clear line in Romans chapter 9 where he says, would that I be cut off for the sake of my brothers, the Jews. Mm-hmm. And so it's very clear. He makes a line there. Yeah. I wish I could be cut off so that they could be grafted in. Mm-hmm. And I think chapter 9 on, he is speaking primarily.
Yeah, I think one of the major like textual things is like he shifts pronouns.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, he's one of the Jews who are believers. Yeah. He's not a Gentile who's a believer, but he's called to he's the apostle called to the Gentiles.
Yeah.
So he does what he does and goes to the Jew first, even as he writes.
To the Jew first and then the Greeks.
And that's because he's a Jesus guy.
Yep.
And Jesus did the same.
Yeah.
Right, like there's some pretty challenging texts I don't want to get into, but I'm not going to throw this to the dogs.
Yeah.
Jesus says that thing. It's like, oh man, what? Whoa, wait.
Or to his apostles, go only to the lost sheep of the tribe of Israel.
The tribe of Israel. Yeah. And so there's this reality that, that God has, it's through the Jews, it's through blessing the Jews that the nations get blessed to be a blessing. We say that all. That's Genesis 12, man. Yeah. It goes all the way back to the beginning. So,
and that's the Abrahamic covenant too. No doubt. That is Abraham was chosen to go into a foreign land and to live out his we'll say his Christian values because he was but to live out
no need to get into the weeds on all that, like
exactly to live out his values on display in a foreign land, and in so doing he would heal those foreign lands. So
I think those are some of the things I wanted to talk about. Before we even get started, that for sure. And then Paul, one of the perspectives that's out there is that because Paul is the apostle to the Gentiles, which everybody affirms. Yeah. Also, everybody affirms that he's talking to Jews and Gentiles in the text. They don't just necessarily lay it out the way. Yeah. I talked about David Allen and others doing it, but he's addressing believers. But what's not always present, and we kind of had, some people tend to think that he's coming from a Hellenistic Gentile perspective. Yeah. And Paul's just not. He hasn't abandoned all that he is as a Jew in order to just write this. He's actually, when it's necessary, he does approach things at a Hellenistic perspective. Yeah. And it's like to the Jew I'm a Jew, to the Gentile I'm a Jew. But like in this text, that's why it's important for you to understand who he's talking to, because he still has his Jewish life that he's drawing from. And honestly, I think, and I don't remember who it was who talked about this, but in one of their commentaries, they were like, what it seems that one of the things that Paul seems to be wrestling with in Romans is like his own issues,
his own Jewishness.
Yeah, he's like, how do I bring the realities of the world that I grew up in as a Jew into underneath Christ? Yeah. And the reality of what Jesus really brought in and ushered in. Because instead of, and here's why this is important. This is what I was trying to get to. Sorry, it took me a second. Oftentimes, the way it's viewed, and even my tradition, our tradition of Baptist, is like old covenant out, not like meaning by that like it doesn't have any value anymore, and new covenant in, and in such a way it's like this: we're not under the law anymore. We're under grace.
Yeah.
And it's like, hold on.
Pump those brakes.
Yeah, Jesus fulfilled the law so that we could then live out the realities of the law.
To live the fulfillment of the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so Paul's wrestling with that. It was like, how can Gentiles do that? Right? How can this is a strictly Jewish thing?
Yeah.
How do Gentiles graft in, and what does that even look like? And
yeah,
and those types of things. So, and I know everybody who's listening to this has heard somebody say, "We're not under the law." We're, and like it's like, okay, sure, if you mean what you should mean in that,
like we don't have to sacrifice bulls.
Exactly. However, that can lead to a place where you get to places where the Jewish people don't matter, and which sadly, Christian history. I'm not trying to get into all that, but we have not treated the Jews well in our lineages way back, and at times. And so lots of things there. But anyway, all that plays into like the realities of trying to understand these things and walk through them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's two threads that I want to pull on there.
Pull.
Let's see. The last thing that you mentioned was Paul sort of wrestling with his Jewishness, and there is a debate going on, and we don't have to get deep into the weeds on it, but a debate going on called the New Perspective.
Sure.
And what that debate has to do with is when Paul in Romans chapter 1, Romans chapter 2 talks about the moral law, is he talking about, or when he talks in 2:15 about a law unto themselves, the law of the conscience or whatever, is he talking about an objective, moral, universal law, or is he talking about the boundary markers of Judaism? So, the Gentiles having to sacrifice bulls or having to keep the Sabbath or having to go get circumcised, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the New Perspective says, he's talking about the boundaries of Jewishness,
mm-hmm.
To where Gentiles no longer need to get circumcised, right?
Correct.
And then the old, I guess we could call it the old perspective, but that's subject to some debate.
The traditional perspective, I think, is typically how it's referred to.
What they sort of say, I know
the oldest wouldn't be that, but anyway, yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so what they sort of say is, this is a universal moral, objective, ethical law sort of thing. They're talking about, best way that I understand it is they're talking about the "thou shalt not murder" of the 10 Commandments. Everybody knows not to murder. Whereas the New Perspective is talking about the remember the Sabbath and keep it holy aspect of the 10 Commandments. Weigh in on that debate in any.
Yeah. So what I would say is that it seems to me that Paul, when he's talking to the Jews about in chapter 1 about the wildness that's going on, and he's like, "Listen, all this is happening." That's,
chapter 1, verse 18.
Yeah. These things, he's like, they're like normalized in the culture of Rome and other pagan. Whereas it's like, and it's easy for the chapter 2 Jew to look at that and point the finger and be like, we're not like that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I understand the debate, but with that you're referencing in terms of the New Perspective, and this is kind of what I said to you, is like, I think it's important. I think he's talking to the Jews, and I think he's talking about their law.
Yeah.
And he's a Jew, and he's talking to the Jews. That's what he's referencing. Now, does that not mean that there's not a conscience, which you have in chapter 2, verse 15? Sure, every person has a conscience. Everybody's image of God, and then, Lord, we could go into the debate of like, hey, man, what does that even mean? Did we lose the image of God when at the fall, or do we still have slivers of it? Can a person actually do good if they're not saved? Like what is that? And all the complexities, those are conversations we will have down the road because there's conversations that Paul brings up that directly apply to those. But what I would say is, I think simply put is, yes, Paul is talking about the law that the Jews were given. That's not to say that people don't have a conscience, because he mentions that too, that moral reality. And his main point and the crux of his argument that he's making is, hey, just because you can identify what is right and wrong, whether that's apart from the law via conscience, or because you have the law and was raised in a family that were recipients of the law, either way, identifying what's right and wrong and actually living in full accordance with what's right and wrong are two different things.
Yeah.
You're not justified because you can identify what's right and wrong, whether that's by conscience or the law.
Yep.
You're justified only by Christ, by a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, even under the law, like, just because you had the law, you still had to go sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what's needed. And ultimately, that's what he's getting at. He's like, these Jews, they're in this place at this time. And this is where we can start throwing stones at Jews.
Yeah.
Which is not a healthy thing. It's just their issue. Us pagans, we got ours. We got ours.
We talk about the Pharisees all the time.
He gets to those in chapter 9,
Yeah.
but to the Jew first. So we have to talk about these first. And so,
Yeah.
So, like, that's what he's saying. That's ultimately what he's saying. So I think it's important to try to distinguish, but either way, I think he's getting at the conscience and the law of Israel that was given to them. That's what I would argue.
So to ground
more
that,
on the new perspective side is
yeah. To ground that, sort of make it practical and tactical, to put the cookies on the bottom shelf, so to speak. He's talking in chapter 1, the wrath of God being revealed against all ungodliness. And that's ungodliness of people who exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and they worshipped the creature rather than the creator. So he's talking about people who, they put gold on a bull, make a golden bull statue, and worship that instead of God.
Yeah, even so, they suppress it, right? They suppress the truth.
They have the truth, but they pat it down inside of themselves. They know what's right, and that speaks to Ecclesiastes. Eternity's written on the heart of man.
Man, and part of chapter 2 as well that's connected to this is Paul is like, hey, the fact that you can recognize them and the sins that they're committing tells me that you can recognize you have sinned. That you've missed it. And we all know that. We judge, like, that's, he talks about judging right there at the very beginning.
He says,
you're without excuse.
You have no excuse, everyone who passes judgment, for in that which you judge another, you condemn yourself.
Right. So what he's not saying is don't judge. We should make judgments. We have to make judgments all the time. To make the statement, one should not judge, is a judgment in itself.
Yeah.
Right. So there's clear scripture all over that even Jesus tells us to judge in the right way. The question is, are we judging in the right way? And Paul's just tapping into this reality. Hey, we're all making judgments about other people all the time. Right, wrong, indifferent. That's not even his point, really. His point is the fact that you can make those judgments about others tells me that when you look in the mirror, you're without excuse, bro. Because whether you have the law or you don't have the law, whether you're operating off conscience or moral law or natural law, or you got the law of Moses, that thing is, you can quote the whole thing, right? If you come from Gamaliel, and like me, Paul, speaking in his,
of course.
And it's like, it don't matter. Like, the fact that you can identify it doesn't make you righteous. Like, there's a difference between being able to identify and actually living it out. And listen, none of us have lived it out to its fullest extent, because even under the law, which we talked about, that's specifically what he's talking about. There is text in the Old Testament that says if you miss one, you've missed it all.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so what are you even doing right now? Like, it's not helpful. And he's like, I do it.
Yeah.
We see this later, but like, Paul speaks in a very humble way, but he's very direct with it. But like, he's wrestling with the challenges that he had to wrestle with himself. Let's never forget who this guy is. He was persecuting and killing Christians, and out of zeal, right? He had a zeal for the Lord. Hey, just to let you know, zeal for the Lord doesn't get you saved.
It's true. It's true.
There was no one more zealous for God.
It's true.
Than Paul. I mean, he would make that argument himself. And yet here he's like, oh man, I missed it. Like I had a zeal for the Lord, and I missed it. And this is how. And it was based off of these very Jewish realities that I was living with. It was the context, or like just the way it was in his day.
Yeah.
And so he had to figure that out. And so how that's okay, practical, tactical. Like a lot of us have grown up with theologies and teaching. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And like maybe it's not.
It's true. Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying they're all wrong.
We can be a little bit more pliable, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So one of the things that maybe we could say it this way, and to get practical and tactical, is what Paul is really saying here is, hey, these traditions, not necessarily bad, but what they've created is that we're asserting traditions over truth.
It's true. Yeah.
And Jesus says, I am the truth. And so we have to navigate and figure out how to surrender ourselves under that truth. That doesn't mean all traditions are bad. You know, I'm a tradition guy. Like, I like traditions, man. And I think a lot of traditions, if you get to the reason why, if you can find out why that tradition exists, what you'll find is a very good truth.
Yeah.
And maybe that tradition has been taken and misused and all those things. However, what that tradition is attempting to accomplish and what it was originally set out for, although it may be being misused now, its originality was like actually really wholesome, good, and Jesus-centered.
Yeah, yeah. Know? So we should constantly examine ourselves, examine our traditions,
be good Bereans, man.
Our basic beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many things that we take for granted, especially as Southern Baptists. Because we have such a rich tradition.
Yeah, and we're right. So, like,
we have a rich tradition. We love our tradition.
Yeah.
And we have every reason to love our tradition. We've got some wonderful, I mean, maybe not the tradition of slavery, but other.
Yeah, outside of that, though, man, like missions. Like, hey, name another.
Yeah, hospitals.
Like, we can go down to adoption.
Yeah. Like, adoption.
You know, second to none.
Yeah, absolutely. Military service to the country.
Let's go. You know about that life.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been, I know of churches that feed thousands of people in their county.
Yeah,
you know? A humble little Baptist church feeding thousands of people in the county.
Yeah.
Passing out meals. Mm-hmm. So that's us. That's who we are. And there's reasons to love that. But at the same time, when we look at things like, I don't know, some of our patriotic songs.
Yeah.
Or
here's one.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's one that's like less on that. Sunday school.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like.
Don't you come from my Sunday school now?
I'm not.
I'm gonna get hot.
I'm with it.
Okay. Good.
You know, like read the history of Sunday school, where it came from, the historicity behind it, and like, hey man, during the Industrial Revolution, like people were ripped from being instructed in the home in everyday activity. Everybody worked in the home together. Children had it's what you would call an economic unit. And that's the way the family was. And everything revolved around what the family did. The dad, mom, they all worked together and did those things. And then you have this thing called the Industrial Revolution that comes up. And now families, moms are 7 days a week for exhausting hours in working in factories. Dads, same thing. Children on the streets, what are they doing? Hey, and a guy comes up and is like, these kids are illiterate. They don't know they have no morals. Don't know how to read. And boom, in Gloucester, England, you have this guy who pops up and he's like, we're just going to start teaching kids. And its movement catches on and goes all the way into the frontier west of America. And becomes a means to education. And it was on the back of Christians. Like, Christians are the ones who are like, kids need to be educated. Like, right. And so people just like throw out the Sunday school is an old method, antiquated, it's useless. We should go to home groups and all that. It's like, fine, whatever. There may be some practicality and modern. It is just a method, you know. But however, if you go back to this method and see its effectuality in real history for an unbelievable amount of time, hey, don't be so quick to chuck that thing.
So we should examine our traditions, and maybe we'll come to the perspective that, hey, the source of this tradition is pure.
Yeah.
Maybe it's become something that it wasn't intended.
Sure.
Maybe we can...
It's not... Sunday school's not the gospel.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that.
Well, and I think, to be generous to life groups, home groups, they chased after connection and intimacy and community and table fellowship around the...
100%.
And all of those things are wonderful.
In a society that's growing...
lonelier and lonelier.
Yeah, lonelier. People, their homes became castles, right? Where they pulled into their garage doors, the modern day drawbridge, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm in here, I'm with me. And the front porch was not a thing, is not a thing, It's like the last thing I want to do is sit on my front porch and have neighbors like talk to me. It's like, no, I just want to be alone, be left alone. Like I've worked all day, like that type of thing. And, and I'm obviously broad brushing here.
Oh, yeah.
But these are some of the things that were happening in our culture. And it's like, we need to address that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to restore some sort of table fellowship of the home is where people gather.
Yeah.
Where that had faded out. And so home, certainly it has its place.
So I hope what we're showing people is that they can turn a flashlight on their traditions, honor their traditions,
100%,
but also examine them.
Yep.
Reimagine what might be effective for your day.
100%. Yeah.
But to tie it all back together, do you think that that is sort of what Paul is working through, kind of in a tension?
Yes.
Yeah.
Traditions that were deeply rooted in Second Temple period. The Jewishness of his world that he grew up in, the teachings that he received from rabbis, not to mention maybe the greatest rabbi outside of Jesus that, the other historians talk about. He was the guy, and Paul trained under him. And so these are all things that were just accepted. And so now when Jesus comes on the scene, he begins to I'm going to, tear down the temple. I'll rebuild it in 3 days. This is a paradigm and a tradition where the way you worship God is centralized on the temple.
Yeah.
And so what do you what? Right.
Well, I think of Mark 1:17, where it says, in those days, all Jerusalem and all Judea was leaving the villages, leaving the temple to go and be baptized in the Jordan River.
Yeah.
All Jerusalem, all Judea was leaving temple practice behind to seek the remission of their sins a different way than through the temple. That's a radical, dare I say, progressive, that's abandonment of our religion, right?
Yeah.
In their day.
Yeah.
And maybe the Pharisees were right to be freaking out.
Yeah, and that's the guy who was paving the way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For Jesus. He was the Elijah.
So, you're absolutely right that there's a big tension here. How much of our, Paul speaking, how much of our traditions do we honor, do we maintain? Or should we? Is it a matter of law? If it's a matter of law, we have to keep it.
Yeah, and so what Paul hopefully what you hear us saying is what Paul's actually saying is it's not that these things aren't important, but if these are the salvation, if they're the gospel to you, if this is the means by which I receive salvation, if this is the thing, if this is the hill to die on. Paul's like, no, you're missing it. It's to point you to the hill that you should die on, which is Jesus and the gospel. That's the thing worth dying for. He's the one worth dying for. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Now, does it mean that all those other things don't matter? Traditions that, whether they're Jewish, whatever, even into our modern context, like Baptists and stuff, it's not that they've not been influential. It's not that they've not, but what they have. They're great because what they've done is they've pointed to Jesus. And I think that's what Paul, that's what Paul's, that's a way of saying what Paul's trying to say.
Yeah.
Eventually he gets to that, eventually, but it takes him a while. And he sprinkles it in all over, but, he talks about, this week we're going to talk about circumcision. It's well, that's a fun topic.
Yikes.
But hey, Paul talks about it, and what does that even mean? Why does he go there? And it's because this is a tradition.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and it's a very important one.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably important.
Yeah.
But it doesn't save you.
No.
So
only Jesus saves.
Yeah.
Well, I want to pull on that second thread.
Okay, second thread.
It.
Yeah.
So
we're 30 minutes in.
Oh boy,
so that's not too bad.
Not too bad. No.
We're actually moving faster than I thought. That's cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna sort of play in the role of the traditionalist who doesn't believe in that new perspective on Paul, just to kind of I don't want to say I want to play devil's advocate.
Are you trying to incite violence?
I'm trying
from
to
this
incite.
side of the table?
Don't come for my neck. No, I just want to say that it is understandable how they got there. Sure. And here's a couple of reasons why. Number one, Paul is steeped in the Greco-Roman Hellenistic culture, the Greek culture. In particular, we can see from like Acts chapter 17, or is it 19? 17? Areopagus? 19.
I want to say 19, but
I want to say 19.
17.
I think it's 19.
Let's go with 19 and then correct us if we're wrong out there.
We see from Paul's speech on the hill of Areopagus.
Yeah. Listen, the numbers were put in later. So.
Yeah, there you go. We see from his speech that I'm going to abuse myself for missing that for the rest of the day.
Oh, man.
But we see from his speech that that's an example of him talking to the Greeks. Very clearly talking to the Greeks because he quotes Aratus, he quotes a couple of other philosophers. But we see from that speech that he knows his business.
Yeah. Yes. So we've been talking a lot about Paul's Jewishness.
Yeah.
Paul is also very much Roman. He grew up in both worlds.
He knows his business.
He knows his business on both sides of the culture that he was in. And he was a Jew of Jews.
Yeah.
And he was also a Roman, like few Romans intellectually. He grew up in Tarsus, which had a school of philosophy there, and that we know about, and so one of the most prominent ones. And so no doubt we don't know if Paul actually attended it. And a school of law there as well, but which were kind of one and the same at the time. Anyway, that's beside the point. And but my point is that he grew up in a city that was like steeped in this Hellenistic philosophy and everything. Like it was like they were known for it.
Yeah.
And he was a Jew who trained under the best rabbi that was there, right? And so he had both of these.
And so it would be easy for us to say, okay, as he's writing to the Romans, we read this, it reads like a rhetorical argument, like a Greek argument, right?
Yep. At times. But it also reads like a Jewish argument from the Talmud when he uses, what's the terms? I wrote them down in my notes here because I wanted to, when he says heaven forbid.
Yeah.
This, like, if you go back to the Talmud, this is like you've heard one rabbi say blah, 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 and then the rabbi that you have that you're learning from, this is a strategy that they would teach. So they'd be like, you've heard from Rabbi so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Heaven forbid. Yeah. This is in the Talmud consistently, or God forbid. And Paul uses this saying. This is like their way of communicating. So he's doing both, man.
Similar to Jesus.
Yeah.
You've heard it said blank.
Yep.
But I say to you blank.
It's very much a rabbi thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Asked and answered. But
also some people argue. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the Areopagus. Some people argue that Paul's strategy there didn't work, which is why later he's like, y'all know me, and I didn't come with any lavish speak or anything. I just came with the gospel. Because Paul, he learned something there.
Yeah.
Oh, I can go with this Hellenistic approach.
Ooh, that's meaty.
It doesn't work.
That's good.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And so like when he moves on into other cities,
I'm almost persuaded.
Yeah. And he's like, forget it, man. I'm no lavish speak. I'm done with that. I'm coming with Jesus and the gospel, and that's it, because it's the only thing that pierces people's heart. Now, that is
so
opinion,
good.
but I've heard multiple people argue that in recent days, and like they're like, yeah, like even Paul, like this is a strategy, and he abandoned it.
That is so good.
And that goes to, okay, so why is that important in our modern context? It's because for the last 30 years we've been trying to like kowtow to secularism, and it's like, we've been trying to find inroads.
Yeah.
Dude, forget the inroads. I'm done with the inroads, bro. It's Jesus or nothing. Yeah. And like, I don't need inroads because it's clear. Yeah. Secularism doesn't work.
It doesn't.
The way of this world doesn't work. We're witnessing it in front of our eyes, right? And so it's like, no, the answer has been always Jesus, and so I'm done with the inroads. I'm just going to preach Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I want you to know everything. I don't need no lavish speech.
Yeah.
Forget that. I'm driving out evil. I'm driving out the demonic with the words of the gospel.
Oh, it's so
and
good.
I'm done. We need to be done with this. Oh man, you got me on a soapbox, man. We need to be done with this. Like trying to be sensitive to those who are under demonic thinking.
Yeah.
And we need to call it demonic thinking.
Yeah.
We need to drive out the enemy with our prophetic boldness.
Yeah.
And quit trying to cater to them. And because as we cater, listen, here's the truth, man. As we cater to those people, that the demonic ideas of our day, which is rooted in secularism, relativism, pragmatism, all of these things, as we try to soften it up and try to be winsome so that we might win some. I'm curious how many you've actually won, bro. And as we do that, we've abandoned the actual believers who are looking for truth. And so prophetic boldness, man, speak to your church members who are believers, speak the truth, step on their toes, and drive out the demonic from your church as you preach.
That's incredible.
That's what I'm saying.
Preach.
Yeah. And sometimes that looks like driving out the traditions that you're holding on to that are unhelpful, that maybe speak wisely about them, honor them the way they should be, drive them out when they're not helpful. And that's just the straight up culture that we live in and how it's influenced us.
Yeah.
Right. That river that, as I talk about all the time, that river that we are all in, we don't get a choice. We're living in it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do anything, you wind up and you look around and you're not in the same place anymore, although you haven't moved. How was that? The current took you. And the culture has a current.
Yeah.
And we better stand against that thing, fight against it. And the beautiful thing is we got an anchor.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to fight. We just stay connected to the anchor and we won't move. We just stand right there.
Yep.
Put your waders on, baby.
That's so good. Man.
I was not planning on going there, but there it is.
We could end on that, honestly.
I mean, if we want to. Yeah.
But I still got some threads I want to
pull some threads.
No. I love what you say about being done with secularism, and part of it, we hinted on it actually, I think the last podcast. Yeah. But even secularism is kind of done with secularism.
Yeah, right.
You've got Dawkins, Richard Dawkins is the prime example.
I can't buy into Christianity, but at least the culture, I'm for it.
Yeah. He says he's a cultural Christian now. And the reason being, you and I both grew up with the God Delusion. Everybody read it. Everyone was reading it in high school for me, and talking about it. And Richard Dawkins, got to the end of his ideas and realized they end in either one of three perspectives. One of those is moral relativism, where if it feels right to you, then it is right, or you have your truth, I have my truth, and never the twain shall meet. The other is a form of moral relativism, existentialism, which is it deals with your personal relationship to your own values. And so we see that a lot, unfortunately, in, I'm just going to say it, in the LGBTQ community, trans community. What matters is your internal felt sense relationship to your own values. And so you're anchored to nothing. You're moored to nothing, and you're drifting along, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is nihilism, which is just nothing matters.
Well, then I would argue the first two, ultimately, when logically reasoned out and lived out, will eventually land on nihilism.
Lead to nihilism.
Every time.
Yeah. And so it's no wonder then that philosophical thinkers like Augustine would latch on to Platonism, the thoughts of Plato, the philosopher who believed in a moral objective. There's a heavenly realm to Plato where things are perfectly, universally, objectively true. Augustine seizes on that, and he even said in his book, The City of God, he said, Platonists are closest to us Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And then Augustine turns the lens on a book like Romans and begins to read it from a Platonic perspective.
Yeah.
And
he takes on, a Platonic perspective and a Manichaeanistic perspective, which is a big word. He was a Manichaean, which was a form of Gnosticism prior to it. And anyway, we'll get into that later because there's some things. But anyway,
we'll give him a little bit of credit. He reads things like, give him a lot of credit. Yeah. But he reads things in Romans like all men know the truth, but have suppressed it in their hearts in unrighteousness. And hey, that implies that there is a truth to be known by all men.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that.
No.
I think we have a conscience. I talked to our little kids. I brought them up in front of us and did a little devotion with them.
Yeah.
And we talked about the conscience.
And what was the metaphor that you used?
Oh, the alarm clock.
The alarm clock.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, how many of you been hitting the silence button on your alarm clock? Mm-hmm. I had this conversation with my girls yesterday. They got in a little spat and called each other names. And I was like, hey, what'd we talk about Sunday? Oh. And Eleanor looked at me and she put her head down and she said, silence in the alarm clock. It's like, she knew it, man. Like, I was like, you did, didn't you? And she was like, yeah, I did. I suppressed the truth.
Yeah.
And I got pretty bold there for a minute and was like, kind of sound like I was like getting after something. But honestly, I'm like tapping into Paul.
Yeah.
Because chapter 1, verse 18 through the end of the chapter sounds a whole lot like judging.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's like, bro, he's going in. Yeah. He's calling it what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And then he turns around in chapter 2 and he's like, oh, by the way, if you want to start judging people, you're without excuse too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's as if we can't do what Paul does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, don't judge. And it's like, oh, be soft on sin. It's like, no, Paul was never soft on sin. But he was first hard on sin in his own life, which is what Paul's doing. He's a Jew talking to Jews about the things that are standing in the way of them receiving the gospel. He's like, here's our issue.
Yeah.
And you better put this thing front and center first and foremost, or else we're pulling apart the unity of Gentile believers and Jewish believers, which is the church, which is what Jesus came to do, was to bring us together. Not make us the same. Mm-hmm. We're not the same. But we serve the same Savior. We are the same, and since we're humans, but they're still Jews, and so it's not like that. It's not and he's not even saying that. He says things that could be portrayed that way, which is why people go off and left field with some things. But but when you understand who he's talking to at the moment and why he's saying it, again, back to this understanding who's on the other side of the phone, and like he's talking to someone, and then about other people, and then about themselves. Yeah. And you got to know, like, who he's talking to and who he's talking about as you walk through Romans.
Absolutely.
This is why this is important.
Absolutely.
In terms of interpretation, because Romans is God's word. Our interpretations and people's commentaries not. And so we have to, that doesn't mean that we don't learn from them. I'm up there teaching every week. I hope people learn from me. I'm trying, but what I'm trying to do is align with what Jesus says the most, and what Paul is intentionally. And there is never a moment where we should take Paul and pit him against Jesus. Jesus always stands over Paul, and I think Paul would say the same.
Absolutely.
I just feel like, bring Paul into the room. It's like, oh man, we got this moment where we get to talk to Paul and be like, hey, Paul, some people like think your gospel's different than the gospel that Jesus presented. He would be like, what? Like, no chance. What? Like, I mean, he would lose his mind, right?
Absolutely.
But the Hellenistic approach that can be taken, interpretive approach that can be taken as we read through Paul, and not just
has been,
and probably the most predominant perspective, historically speaking, especially in our faith tradition. Mm-hmm. What that does create is a philosophy or a grid. We could call it a grid, mm-hmm. in which you look through.
A matrix.
A matrix in which we interpret.
Mm-hmm.
And so what then ends up happening is we read things that we'll get to later, and we interpret them one way because we're seeing them through a grid that Paul doesn't intend us to look through. And that's what the new perspective kind of runs right against and challenges. Yeah. And I would argue has some very, very important practical and tactical philosophical realities that we do engage with on a daily basis. Yeah. And we'll get to those when it's appropriate.
I want to try, if I can, to...
I'm throwing out the hook. I'm trying to... next podcast down the road. Come on Sunday.
I want to try to summarize and integrate some of these, because I'm not sure that we've resolved the great debate yet, right? And nor are we going to.
Yeah. I'm 38, man. You're not supposed to do this till you're 50.
It's true. It's true. But I think it's important to note here, okay, there is a universal moral law.
Certainly.
But
natural law, moral law, yes.
Unlike,
you have to use arguments from extreme to get there with some people who are off their rockers at times. I'm being really disingenuous with people, but sometimes some people are. But anyway, yes,
yeah.
And you can get people there on a conversation if you need to. If they're just not like, oh yeah, I believe that. Normal sane people would say, yes, I believe that. People who have been indoctrinated by secularism may try to argue through all of their philosophical lenses that there is no moral law, whatever, and it's like, okay, then you can go to argument from extreme and get people there. So or you can walk them into a trap where they're just like, oh, I'm evil, and it's like, so gotcha. Oh, you need Jesus.
if there isn't a universal moral law, then it's might is right, and you can just get steamrolled by
who wants that?
A fascist autocrat.
Let's pass.
Yeah.
You're my enemy.
Yeah, Stalinism is not for me.
Yeah, not so much. We saw how that worked out with lots of different expressions.
Exactly.
Not so good.
Yeah. So, okay, there is a objective moral law, but unlike something like maybe Immanuel Kant with his categorical imperative, his idea that you can reach the moral law through pure reason by yourself, just sitting alone in your bedroom thinking, maybe we need a relationship with God in order to know this moral law.
Yeah.
We need what Paul says is the light of creation.
Yeah.
Which leads us to a creator.
So let's just say Immanuel Kant's right, and you can come to that understanding of it in the silence of your own room. Mm-hmm. Coming to the understanding of it and identifying right and wrong is a drastically different thing than being and doing what's right at every moment in every situation.
In order to be or I should say, in order to be and do what's right in every situation, you've got to know your creator.
100%.
You've got to know. There's no other way to say it. Because what is it? Even let's say the Pharisees who were doing the right thing, they were making sacrifices. Jesus said, you tithe on mint and dill, but you ignore the weightier matters of the law, like mercy and justice,
Yeah, swallow a camel while straining out gnat.
Well, okay, it's easy to tithe on mint and dill. You just take your mint and your dill and you cut it up.
Done.
and that's good. How do you do mercy to the homeless man on the corner of the street who maybe he's tearing his clothes, maybe he's screaming, maybe he poses a danger to yourself or your child? How do you do justice to a situation that's way outside of your control, like a school shooting? So it's like what I'm saying is we need a relationship with our Creator to begin to navigate and mediate through these things,
yep.
right? And that's Romans 1. They've traded the created thing for the they saw the light of creation, so they have a moral law.
Yeah.
But they traded the relationship with the Creator for the created thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that has to be restored if we have any hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think, is a balance between the two perspectives. You're talking about Platonism, which is there's an objective moral standard that we can reach by our own human reasoning, versus like existentialism, which is we need a relationship with something in order to discern what's right and true moment by moment. There's a balance between the two where...
Yeah, this is why you've heard me say things like the best lies are like 99% true.
Yeah.
But the 1% that's a lie is the one that matters the most.
Yeah.
And so it's like a conscience is a good thing. This natural moral law that we have is a good thing. But if that's all you're relying on, like you've suppressed your own conscience, so like you stand without excuse.
Yeah.
Which is what Paul's saying.
Yeah.
If you have a law that's been put together collectively based off of a relative idea of where everybody's come together and we've developed some sort of communal consensus based off of everybody's relative truth that they've claimed, and we've statistically thrown this into an AI generator and come up with the general ideas that everybody generally like accepts. Like you've not lived up to those. It doesn't like all of the like. Yeah, sure, you may land on truth, but identifying truth is different than living it. And none of us, we stand without excuse, Paul's saying. And we all know that.
Oh, yeah.
But we suppress that.
Yep.
And we do what chapter 2 does. It's like we stand and judge others and justify ourselves. We love judgment until it's on me. And we're like, whoa, wait. Right? The heart's deceitful above all things, right? And the fact that we can identify sins in others just tells me that you sin because you've done the same.
Yeah.
To some degree, in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's what Paul's getting at. He may not be addressing it in the ways we're talking about it in our day, but this is how it applies to our day, and how it comes into play in our it's Monday now what situation. Like you need the Spirit of God in your life.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the Word of God. So that we can actually know what's right and know what's true. Because left to our own devices, we have a real knack for judging others and suppressing the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's coming a day, which he says in chapter 2, where judgment's coming, man.
Yeah.
And, if you want to go, chapter 2, the first part, he's not talking about necessarily the Bema seat, which is where Christians will be judged based on their things. That's in like Corinthians or something. You can apply it to that, but that's not the point that he's making. He's saying like without Christ, you're going to stand judged based off of your works, and you are like, right? You're a judge to yourself. You that's not going to go. It's not going well. So if that's all you got, man, you're just like the pagan. You're just like the chapter 1 guy.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know. Like, okay, J. Vernon McGee used to say, if life is a lemon and this is all you got, it's the only lemon you got, then
squeeze that lemon.
Squeeze that lemon, bro. You better get every drop out of that. That's why Paul would say, like, right? Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Do it all. Be Romans 1.
Yeah.
If this is all we got, feel, experience all of it.
Yeah.
But what if there's something more, right? And then, that's that, man, we all know we're going to be judged.
Yeah.
We all know it's coming.
Yeah. I think you can make the case if there is an unbelieving listener out there, I think that you can, if you're being honest with yourself, feel that you've missed the mark, and all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I think I've heard enough.
Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This is why it's like, what does that even mean? At least maybe a major part of that is like, dude, one day I'm going to stand before someone who created me. Yeah. And I'm going to have that, yeah. That's a scary, fearful thing. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, Jesus says, I'm your creator. I'm the one that you're going to stand before. And I'm the one who knows everything about you. Mm. And I'm the one who died for you. Yeah. Like, I know everything you ever did. And I know it so intimately. I took it. I took it. He who knew no sin became sin. Mm-hmm. Like I became the sin that you committed. All those things that you did, those like the worst of the worst, the ones that you don't even want, like the ones that wake you up in the middle of the night, and you're like, oh no, I did it again, in your head, and it's like, oh no, and you're like, oh God, thank God
it was just a dream.
Yeah, that was just a dream, and God's been long suffering, and that hasn't come back to bite me. Thank God. Yeah. Like that. Well, he knew that.
You said on Sunday his kindness leads us to repentance. It doesn't mean that his, what was it? You said his patience.
Yeah, his patience isn't like that. He is, how did I say it? That he's like
putting up with sin.
Yeah, it's not like he just doesn't care about it. Yeah, yeah. It's because he does care. Yeah, is why he's patient. Yeah, hoping that all would return to him. Yeah, and know the love of Jesus. And so that's why we call out sin. And for some of us, that's really like you say you're a sinner, and you're like, yeah, I know. Mm. Yep. Others, maybe the chapter 2 type person, it's like it seems like Paul's going through a whole lot to like prove to them they're sinners. Yeah. And I think I may have met some of those people in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Who they probably wouldn't say that verbally, but the way they're living and the way they treat others, they're on a high horse.
Judgmental people.
Yeah. And and it's like, hey, like if you're really honest with yourself, you're without excuse too. Yeah. And you may this 600 and something laws, you may have kept 600 of them, but there's 5 that you missed, which means you're a transgressor of the law. Yeah. And you stand without excuse. Yeah. And Jesus, the beautiful thing is Jesus says, I know. Mm-hmm. And I successfully walked in all of the laws that the Old Testament prescribed, never missed a one, and I took on all the ways you missed it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be the one to judge you. Mm-hmm. So why don't you just trust me? And so for everybody out there, Romans 1 and 2 is saying, I don't care where you fall on this spectrum, mm-hmm. We're wretched, we're lawbreakers, we're transgressors of the law, mm-hmm. and we need Jesus. And the beautiful thing is, he wants you and invites you to come and be with him. And ultimately, this is where Paul's getting to. He's building to these arguments, and you don't necessarily see it in chapter 2, but it's hints of it, slivers of it, and we'll get there. But, yeah, Jesus is good, man. He's way better than this culture and everything they have to offer.
Absolutely.
And I'm speaking to myself.
Yeah.
Just as Paul is.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I know the lures of this world we live in. They're real, they're challenging, and it's hard not to bite sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whether that's judgment, whether that's, dude, just go down the list.
Snorting coke.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to go all the way to there. All right. Yes. All
Jesus is better than snorting coke.
Yeah. I mean, like, and people who've done that would be like, that's pretty, that's quite a good thing in the moment until it destroys your life.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about like sins. They feel good in the moment, right? It's like, man, they're short term. Like, but you're right. Like, if it wasn't good according to some standard that somebody's made, people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's satisfying something. Right. It's satisfying something, and it is satisfying to some degree. The question is it more satisfying than Jesus? And the answer is absolutely not.
I just want to put it on the record that one came out of nowhere. I'm absolutely wilding out right now.
It's okay. It's okay. We're at the hour mark.
Okay, let's wrap this one up quick.
Oh, it's Monday now. What? Don't do that.
Yeah, it's Monday now. What?
Oh, I love it.
So what do we have as action items? Come to church, read your Bible, pray, trust Jesus.
Trust Jesus over traditions.
All right.
But don't abandon your traditions.
But don't abandon them.
And never think that Paul is at odds with Jesus. And don't let philosophy dictate how you interpret Scripture. Let Scripture interpret Scripture for itself.
Amen.
That's it.
That's it.
It's Monday now what?
It's Monday now what?
We'll see y'all next time.
See you next time.